What if I told you the biggest threat to a bank wasn't a masked robber, wasn't a hacker in a dark basement, wasn't even an organized crime syndicate? It was the guy holding the door open every morning. This is the story of the security guard who robbed his own bank. Not once, not twice, but 23 times, and for years, no one suspected him. Before we begin, if you're fascinated by true financial crime stories that reveal how the system really works behind the scenes, make sure you subscribe, because stories like this, they're not just entertainment, they're lessons. The perfect employee. He was reliable, always early, never called in sick, friendly with customers, respected by management. Let's call him Daniel. Daniel worked security at a regional bank branch in a quiet American city. Not Wall Street, not a major financial capital. Just an ordinary bank where teachers, retirees, and small business owners trusted their life savings. And Daniel's job? Protect the money. He wore the uniform, he carried the badge, he walked the same floors every single day. And that was exactly why he got away with it. Because the safest place to hide is in plain sight. The first time, it didn't start with millions. It started with something small, a tiny discrepancy, a slight delay in cash reporting, a minor error during end-of-day reconciliation. Something so insignificant, it was blamed on accounting software. But it wasn't software. It was Daniel. You see, as a security guard, Daniel wasn't supposed to handle large amounts of cash, but he had access to blind spots, access to procedures, access to timing. He knew when managers switched shifts, he knew when audits happened, he knew which cameras were monitored live and which were just recording. That knowledge was worth more than gold. And once he realized no one noticed the first time, he tried again. The pattern no one saw. Over the next several months, small amounts began disappearing. Not enough to trigger panic, not enough to make headlines, just enough to test the system. $2,000 here, $3,500 there, sometimes less. The amounts were carefully calculated, always below the threshold that would require an immediate internal investigation. Daniel wasn't reckless, he was patient. And patience is what makes financial crime so dangerous. Because while Hollywood shows dramatic vault break-ins, real financial crime is slow, quiet, methodical. By the fifth time, Daniel realized something chilling. The system trusted him more than it checked him. How do you rob a bank? From the inside, here's what most people don't realize. Banks are built around layers of trust. Trust in employees, trust in procedures, trust in routine. Daniel studied those routines like a scientist. He knew which cash shipments arrived on Thursdays. He knew which ATM deposits were reconciled on Mondays. He knew when staff were overwhelmed during peak hours. And he exploited distractions, not with force, not with threats, but with timing. He would subtly create small diversions, harmless distractions, moments when attention shifted. And in those brief windows, small amounts vanished, again and again. By the 10th time, he had refined the process so well, it felt automatic. He wasn't stealing randomly. He was following a script no one else could see. Why didn't anyone notice? Here's where it gets fascinating. The bank did notice discrepancies, but they blamed customers. They blamed software glitches. They blamed human error in accounting. Because accusing your own security guard? That feels irrational. Daniel had built a reputation, and reputation is powerful currency. He attended company events, volunteered for overtime, helped elderly customers to their cars. He wasn't just security, he was part of the culture. And culture can blind organizations. If this story is already making you rethink how institutions operate, pause for a second and hit subscribe, because we're about to get into the moment everything changed. By now, Daniel had taken a staggering total, spread out so carefully that no single event raised alarm. But patterns don't disappear forever, they wait. An internal auditor, new to the branch, started reviewing long-term discrepancies, not daily, not weekly, but across years. And that's when something unusual appeared. Every missing amount, no matter how small, occurred during Daniel's shift. Coincidence? Maybe. But auditors don't believe in coincidence. They believe in probability. And probability was starting to look very uncomfortable. The 23rd time. The mistake after 22 successful thefts, Daniel felt untouchable. Confidence is dangerous. The 23rd time, he adjusted the amount slightly higher than usual. Still under the panic threshold. Still subtle, still controlled. But he didn't account for one thing: the new audit software that tracked cross-shift anomalies. Technology had evolved, and Daniel hadn't. The system flagged a repeating variable: same employee present, same minor discrepancies, same timing pattern. Management didn't confront him immediately. They watched. For weeks, they increased oversight quietly, and then they set a trap. The reveal one evening during a routine shift, additional internal observers monitored transactions in real time. Daniel followed his usual pattern: the same calm demeanor, the same calculated timing. But this time, the discrepancy was recorded instantly. No delay, no confusion, no blaming software. When confronted, Daniel reportedly denied everything at first, but data doesn't argue. And this time, the numbers told a story too precise to ignore. 23 separate internal thefts, all from the same person trusted to prevent crime. The aftermath. The bank faced more than financial loss. They faced a trust crisis. Customers questioned security. Employees felt betrayed. Management had to explain how internal controls failed for so long. And Daniel? He went from respected protector to the center of a federal financial investigation. The total amount taken over the years was substantial, but what shocked investigators most wasn't the money. It was the simplicity. No elaborate hacking, no outside accomplices, no dramatic heist, just access, just patience, just overlooked patterns. The real lesson. Here's why this story matters. Financial crime isn't always loud. It doesn't always involve masterminds or global conspiracies. Sometimes it's about small weaknesses repeated over time. 3 key lessons emerge from this case. First, internal oversight must evolve. Routine without review becomes vulnerability. Second, reputation cannot replace verification. Trust is essential, but blind trust is dangerous. Third, patterns reveal truth. Short-term thinking hides crime. Long-term analysis exposes it. And this applies beyond banks. It applies to businesses, startups, nonprofits, even personal finances. Small unchecked issues grow quietly until one day they're too large to ignore. Why he did it. Investigators later discovered that Daniel wasn't living extravagantly. He wasn't driving luxury cars or buying mansions. Instead, financial stress had slowly built up in his personal life. Debt, medical expenses, lifestyle pressure. And instead of seeking help, he chose access. That's what makes this story unsettling. He didn't begin as a criminal mastermind. He began as someone under pressure who made a small, unethical choice, then another, until 23 times later, there was no going back. The bigger question: how many organizations right now are vulnerable to the same kind of internal blind spot? How many systems rely more on routine than review? How many trusted insiders are never audited because they would never do that? That's the uncomfortable truth behind financial crime. It thrives in familiarity. If you've made it this far, you clearly value understanding how these systems really work. Subscribe now, because on this channel, we break down true financial crime stories, not just to shock you, but to educate you. The security guard who robbed his own bank 23 times didn't break in. He walked in every day. And that's what makes this story unforgettable. Because sometimes the most dangerous threat to a system isn't outside the building, it's already inside. And the only defense against that? Awareness, oversight, and never assuming it could never happen here. I'll see you in the next story.